Here is a strategy ready to use, and you can implement it right away. It is a very common scenario. In this scenario, on the gold on the Asia-London session, why is it important about the session? Because you can see the bubbles, you can see the volumes that is specific to the Asia session. And like this one is, you can see it 44, but together it's actually 76, the volume right over here. Now, let me squeeze this chart and point to you for liquidity. That is indication to, or a signal, you can call it as a signal to entrance into the long position. Now, as you can see, like over here, this is a large bubble. This is a delta, a market delta. Somebody is trying to sell a lot of orders right here, over 76 orders. Now, we're seeing that the liquidity was sitting here or present for a while. And this is indication that there's somebody is more serious than these people with a short liquidity sitting there only for a short time. This is a short time liquidity. We filter it out with our special filters on a heat map. This heat map is integrated with a footprint and all other indicators. You can trade it on the same chart. And that's the beauty of that. And, so I can demonstrate it to you. Why is the footprint and the heat map integration is really a great advantage. Now let's take a look at the liquidity and what makes me thinking about making an entrance. This is a position. Now, what's interesting about this liquidity sitting on a heat map historically for a long time, it was triggered by this delta sale, and it's still present right now. We can see it on an MBO DOM. It is still present and it is still valid. And this is beauty to have not only the heat map that's sitting right here, but also MBO DOM that's saying, yeah, there's some remains of these people who were present over here. They still are present on the MBO DOM. So this is the immediate situation that we can see the activity on the level 2, right? What's going on at the moment. Now, this is very common scenario, and let me draw a few things. How could you trade a situation like that? Okay, let's go and highlight that that was a historically strong liquidity level that is still present right now in a some degree over here. Now, we're seeing that this liquidity was actually price went through. And then when we're seeing that the price, after the price dive under this liquidity level, the price went up, tested it again, tested it the second time, like it was the first time, second time test. This is the third time retesting that liquidity. And that was a second or third time usually is the great spot to enter. This is less aggressive to compare it to entrance over here. This is less aggressive and there's more chances now. You're absolutely sure where to put your stop, because if you enter over here, you know that you can position your stop, if this is the entrance, that you can position your stop right below this resistance or support. It's practically a support. This is a support over here. So you put your stop somewhere like in this vicinity. You don't need to put this stop like behind the large breakthrough, false break. Okay, you can put it somewhere in this vicinity. And this is beauty of that, because we need to know where to put the stop loss. The shorter the stop loss, the less the risk we have. Now, look where the price went to. The price went to this liquidity that's sitting over here, also a historical on a heat map for a while. And we can see that this filtered out heat map, because we filter out some small particles and small junks and small orders that sits there, like these orders, like several of them, but they were short live. The life of those orders were short. So this is a short, significant, but short live orders. They are not really serious out there. It can be a bots or it can be a market maker, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Now, we can filter out with this special filter on the heat map. we can make a beautiful filters. To see is more significant levels like this one, and the price went from here, from this support to this resistance. Isn't that interesting? So that is not accident that the price went up over here and then the price bounced from that level. So now we're seeing the bounce. Where it bounced to? It bounced to exactly the same historical liquidity. Yeah, it went a little bit through, but then again, it's after diving it through this level, we're seeing that this zone, because usually liquidity, it's not a single line, it is the zone. Now we're seeing that it's dived up to about the same. You see this low, this low, this low. It is about on the same line, by the way. So the price bounced from this liquidity sitting here for a while on a heat map and bounced down over here. Isn't that interesting? Now let me put this line over here so you can see that it is about exactly. We're on a 5-second time frame right now, but the prices went like up to the tick, okay, up to the 1 or 2 tick. Very nice precision. So after that, what we can see that price again went up from this support, and when it went up, it went to another historically significant liquidity that sits over here. You see that? This is the bubble that was the interesting situation over here, but we're looking for the liquidity on the heat map historically present. Okay, now we just went through, but a second ago, the MBO DOM was able to show that there is some people still have their orders sitting right here. So that was a long time for this liquidity to be present. And after we went through this liquidity, it wasn't significant, by the way, but it was a series of people sitting there for a while. Now we went to that liquidity. Then obviously we bounce it from that liquidity again. Where we bounce it to? We bounce it to the same zone. So that is like a one-time bounce, second time bounce, boom. Now what we're seeing over here in this zone, we're seeing the very nice rotation. When there is a nice rotation like that, it's really beautiful. You can add a footprint to make very precise entrance on this rotation. But we also can see that there is another, like there's a few attempt to went through, but the price bounced exactly from the very same tick at the bottom 1, 2, 3 times, and then we bounce it from over here. Okay, that is a typical reversal pattern. We can actually make it larger, and we can see each movement over here. That is the classic reversal pattern, if you know what I'm talking about. Something like called a Wyckoff reversal that is still working on any chart, on any time frame. It's just like a beautifully works over here. Now that is the fourth phase to enter in this reversal, to enter into the long short. So that was a predictable movement from here to up over there. Diagram again. So we went again where we landed. We hit the ceiling with this resistance. It's the second time, and then we hit the resistance even more. Again, there was a bounce down, although it was just like an attempt to reaccumulate and go through. This is liquidity on a heat map working for us. Yes, we're seeing the liquidity working on this level, that historically when we went through, then we're seeing the retest. The key is over here to play on the retest, to key over here to play on a retest. There is a few retests, but you see that Yeah, it is obviously a high sign, and it's easy to observe that this is like super precision bottom, three equal bottoms. There's actually more: one, two, three, four, five, six, whatever, five attempt touches to this particular price level with such a good precision. This very scenario is very common, and it works in both directions. Just notice the time when it happens. This is Asia gold, and notice the volume that present over here is 76. That was the false break through 76, and then we bounce it on the same about the area. Okay, the liquidity was present here, but over here, maybe it wasn't that obvious, although we can see that there's an iceberg. There's a few icebergs on the way up, okay? There's the icebergs over here, there's some of them. This square, it's an iceberg, there's a more square, it's an iceberg, there's a more icebergs, there's a more icebergs. Even here, there's icebergs. Icebergs don't have to leave for the whole session. They can leave just for 10, 15 ticks. And this is obviously much more. Okay, so this is the long range, and this is a very straight direction. This is a Wyckoff as well. This is a reversal pattern over here. So that is additional point for the people who understand patterns like that and use them. Yeah, that's really actually like this pattern is right here. A very nice, beautifully played. So in this pattern, you can predict the price will go higher than this. In this pattern, in this quarter, you can predict the price will go higher than this bubble was absorbed by that liquidity. So this movement on the way up was a really well predicted. So we're seeing this liquidity, and that is the support for us, even though that liquidity was breaking, but then we bounce it. We retested. So there's 1, 2 retests. We hit the liquidity on the way up as a resistance, then retest the same area again. We went higher because this is a particular pattern that can predict you and give you a kind of a good idea that the price will go higher than this price level. So on the way up, so it's a perfectly fourth phase of the reversal pattern here. And the same kind of stuff we're seeing over here. This is a nice reversal. This is the reversal pattern. This is the safe fourth phase of the reversal on the way up. And we hit again, we hit the same resistance again, same ceiling in the liquidity that is present over here for a while. At this time, what we can see on this moving chart, that there is some more like a support that is available for the market right now. This is the MBO DOM, and that's a beauty to have not just a heat map, but to have the MBO DOM as well on your chart, because the heat map shown historical information, historical liquidity, while if you a scalper and you're looking for a better precision entrance, you would like to know what's going on right now. You would like to know if there's a liquidity that is, or there's a vacuum of liquidity. Right now, we can see that there's some markers or some orders. We actually see the size of the orders. We can see it like 14, okay, and there's a 12 orders with a 14 lots, and we can see like over here, this is a 15 orders with a 5 orders with the 15 lots. So we can see if there is a large, medium, or a strong support or resistance on both sides of the price line. Right now, I don't see any significant heat map liquidity unless it is sitting right here. And what does it tells me that most likely the price is, after going through this ceiling of the resistance, it doesn't have too much on the way up. So it's probably We're probably gonna go here. We'll see if there will be a reaction. If the MBO people sitting on the level 2 data, if they are still present over here, and we will see when we approach them, we're gonna see if these orders will be flake out or just removed to the higher position. Then we will know that we can easily pass this liquidity and go even higher. But that is not really significant liquidity, because we can put our mouse over and see that this is only 24 lots volume. So it's not too much. What is interesting that this level is comprised out of the bunch of small participants. That is respect from me. So it's not a market maker sitting here. This will be probably digested easily. And as you can see, that price is aggressively moving because there's practically a vacuum over here. Yeah, there's some orders, but those orders less than 2. Those is the ones, bunch of them. At the bottom, do we see the support? Yeah, this is the support. This support is sitting right at the bottom, and this support is supporting for the price to go higher. Although I don't see immediately right in a close vicinity to the price level that there is a support, except this one on the MBO DOM. If you remember the volume, which is important during particular session, if you see the size of the bubbles, what the orders were here or there, you can put this, jog it down on the piece of paper for a particular session and the ticker or instrument that you are on a time frame. You will be able to build yourself a really good trading system, because this scenario is quite often happens on the ES, on the NQ, on the Nasdaq, on the S&P, on the gold, or many other indexes. It's a very typical scenario. Now we're seeing that there's an iceberg right over here on the way up, and we obviously bypassed that liquidity as well. So we passed that liquidity, this liquidity, and it's simply a sign. It is showing me that at this session, our direction, we're moving higher and higher. When the price is moving higher than some resistance right over here, the price made their own strength to accelerate into that particular direction. And there's no liquidity sitting up there. So there's a vacuum of liquidity, even though, look what's going on, that people on the price action who believe in the liquidity, that liquidity sits immediately after sitting on top of the previous tops. You see that there's no liquidity sitting right there. Right now, there's nobody even present on the heat map, and not really present on the MBO DOM. We know that there's no orders on the level 2, passive orders, resting orders, waiting orders sitting there. And somebody is like really strongly believe in the liquidity sweeps right above or below the tops and bottoms. And this is actually baloney. Right now, there is no reason for us to afraid that price will be stopped. It's a visual orientation, the previous extremums, yes, absolutely over here, but it's not a really a strong indicator unless we heavily rely on the volume indicators, because volume indicators show us a data, and we trust in data. This is the lesson. Do you trust in data, or do you trust in the only a price action that is not supported quite often by the solid data? But when you're seeing the price action patterns happens over here, and you're seeing that it is supported by the liquidity, only and only liquidity is only on a level 2. You couldn't see it by the price action. Liquidity, when people say liquidity, when they use price action patterns, they talk about completely different things. They are guessing about liquidity. It's very common that they use, and I was doing that too. I sold many courses on price actions, made really good money by teaching price actions. Okay, you see, this is the iceberg. Here we go, right in front of you. It is refilled, and it's still gonna be refilled again. You see, this one is refilling. If the price will go down, that's a large refilling container over here. So you see that there's like a few of them, actually, icebergs sitting over here. And this one is expected, if the price will go down, it will be refilled. So now the new iceberg is refilling right over here. That is not available for anyone who is only guessing based on the price action. And this is a reason for me to trade liquidity, which is reside on a level 2, trade icebergs, trade Heatmap, and trade the MBO DOM that shows me a very precise situation that's happening currently on the DOM on a level 1 and on the level 2. This is the key interaction between level 1 and level 2. That is what produces a better confidence in trading, not just orientation by the previous tops and bottoms, which is structural orientations for the price action. But the price action and the tops and bottoms not always a good indicator or prediction for the price, where the price decided to go, because there's other tops on the left. There's one, there's another one, so we already passed at this one. If you don't have the MBO data like that, you don't have idea that there's some activities going on a level 2, and there's some hidden activities. This is the level 2 visual activities, but there is an invisible by the icebergs activity happening on the DOM. We can see how these icebergs are still refilled, because these icebergs, one of them, there's like a 4 icebergs sitting there that still waits its refilling. Okay, situation. You see this line is, and there's a sum 4 orders. This is the container for the iceberg. There is other people sitting over here, and even larger container. In this container 10 or 4, they can put into another 10, another 20, another 50, another 100, whatever. And that's a mechanic of the icebergs. Icebergs are something quite interesting. It's a new things that most people have no idea how to trade it. But you see, it makes sense. When somebody tried to sell with a red bubble, it is the activity by the market. But there was, why this bubble showing up over here as absorption? Because on top of that, you're seeing blue square, which was sitting over here for a long time as a container for the iceberg. And now somebody tried to sell, but they sold into the iceberg. So this is a really great support. Iceberg is something that most people have no idea how to trade, because it is the new how, and because they don't understand how to trade it. We're seeing the hidden activity on a level 2. This is visually available with a level 2, but these icebergs are hidden activity on the level 2. This is institutions, they have enough money to wait for any drawbacks, and then it will attract the price to go again. I don't know when, I don't know how soon, but the price will be attracted to that same level when the institution will re-engage, unless it is the hedging positions. Okay, now that was a very classic situation over here, and you can trade a lot with invisible on the price action, but visible with the heat map and visible with the MBO DOM indicators, which all and a footprint as well, that is completely integrated with the heat map and with the DOM. Integration of these indicators on the same chart that you can use for making your entrances are quite fascinating, and we are the only company that produce this type of the indicators, that compatible footprint and compatible icebergs and compatible the MBO DOM and a compatible and integrated, well integrated the heat map, as you can see over here. So good luck to you. Just to make a few screenshots from the beginning of this video and analyze it. It's a very common situation and a ready to use strategy.